And the Grant administration will begin to more aggressively implement the Enforcement Act, along with the newly organized Justice Department that Amos Ackerman will head.
Back in the Justice Department was for stopping the Klan instead of protecting them.
That the Ku Klux Klan was a conspiracy.
That it was an actual organization with leaders and members, meetings and plans that they carried out to inflict terror on Black people. Looking back from our vantage point, it seems obvious. We know today that the Ku Klux Klan was a real organization. But back then, this was a group shrouded in rumor and mystery. To the federal government,
the Invisible
it
Empire.
wasn't clear exactly what it was or how deep the conspiracy went.
Now you might as well call them the Epstein class and their
its leaders,
white
its
trash
and figure out
other
what
colors
kind
of
of
trash
violence the organization
followers
was responsible for.
South Carolina was seen as kind of a test case.
There's the anti-Trump windmill.
Won, it would be a dramatic expansion of the role the federal government could play in enforcing civil rights.
They're all anti-Trump
windmills. It could even
windmills.
mean the end of the Klan.
Oh, the end?
Could he pull it off?
The end? So Trump didn't happen? I guess he didn't pull it off because we've got the Klan now in the Trump regime. Dominica
You're listening to
Patinsky's
Throughline from NPR.
ICE, domestic terrorists, etc. So anyway, I figured I'd go live with this Klan report because it's going to be interesting. Fighting the Klan back in there. There's a picture of the anti-Trump windmill. That's always been impressive. Here's the impressive Colorado horizon.
Laurel and Pamela Moan, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, simsfoundation.org.
Listening to Throughline from
The one
NPR.
Trump wanted to sell,
I'm
but he couldn't sell because he sucks because that's the wrong thing to
Today on
do.
the show, the story of Amos Ackerman, a former Confederate soldier and slaveholder who became the first U.S. Attorney General. He set his sights on South Carolina and the Ku Klux Klan.
A note before we get started, this episode contains descriptions of racist violence. Part 3.
Kind of like our
Wins
news these
and
days.
losses.
If Amos Ackerman was going to arrest the Ku Klux Klan in raids, he was going to need men on the ground. And Lewis Merrill was one of those guys. Merrill was an Army officer sent to York County, which was one of 9 South Carolina counties where the federal government wanted to investigate the Klan. But before Merrill and his troops could make any arrests, he needed to build strong cases against Klan members, a feat that was tough in the South. Merrill wasn't getting any help from local law enforcement, and his troops were met with insults by the locals. But the investigations persisted, and for months, Lewis Merrill developed white informants, followed leads from Black residents. He reviewed legal records and coroner's reports. And in October of 1871, President Ulysses S. Grant gave Merrill and his troops authority to go after the Klan.
Yay, we need that
The
today.
raids began.
So Merrill goes after him. He just starts rolling them up.
We need to start rolling up the Klan
He was
today.
the house of very big. One of his lieutenants there.
This is Guy Gugliotta, author of the book Grant's Enforcer, Taking Down the Klan.
They arrest the father, and then the lieutenant asks his daughter, "Where's the pledge?"
The pledge taken by Klan members.
The daughter says, "Oh, it's right here," and opens a desk and hands him the pledge.
Take the
Some of
daughter
the Klan
too.
members fled the county. Some even fled the country during the raids. But Merrill and his troops did arrest several Klan leaders, including men accused in Tom Roundtree's and Jim Williams' murders.
Merrill's people, the cavalry, are just riding through York County, just pulling people in by the dozen.
Grab them by the posse.
Most of the arrests
That's what it's going to look like when you go after the ICE agents and Trump mutineers too.
So they start to come in, they start to confess, and he's collecting this huge body of material. These people are pleading out as rapidly as they possibly can. They're just taking confessions like one after the other and telling them everything about what's happened. It's absolutely chaotic.
AT Waterboard,
In
Donna
the end,
Kaczynski.
almost 200 people were held in a building that had been converted into a jail. And hundreds
like
more
a
were paroled, waiting to be called to trial.
sprinkler.
The trials took place in the ballroom of the biggest hotel in Columbia, South Carolina, the capital of the state. Picture this T shape. The judges are at the head of the T, and along one side of the T are the prosecution, and on the other side are the defense lawyers. The jury is sitting over against the wall.
The jurors were mostly black men. South Carolina had a majority black population, and potential white jurors also refused to serve, either as a boycott or because they feared or were part of the Klan.
The rest of the room is
That's how
filled.
we need it this time.
Black
All
folks
Americans.
sitting on one side and white folks sitting
Judging
on the
Trump
other.
boutonnieres.
Well, there are two things that the prosecution wants to do. They want to convict the Klansmen, obviously. But what they want
we
to
need
do
today.
is they want to put teeth on the 14th Amendment.
The 14th Amendment enshrined equal protections under the Constitution.
They want to show that these crimes, hate crimes,
Federal government power over states hold these equal protections. And since the state of South Carolina
can't be prosecuted in federal court, just like the rights violations.
But prosecutors weren't convincing enough. And proved that the Klan and its conspired to prevent black people from voting.
Exactly what happened, how her husband was found hiding underneath the floorboards, taken out. He's been hiding underneath the floorboards, taken out.
They told me to shut the door and take my children and go to bed. I shut the door, but didn't go to bed. I looked out of the crack after them until they got
woods and hung from a pine tree. And this courtroom is just absolutely silent.
While the trials were underway, Amos Ackerman was fired up, pushing his rhetoric to sell these prosecutions to the public.
He became more and more and more militant as time went on. By the time these trials took place, he was regarded as the most radical member of the cabinet. He actually went up and gave a speech in Brooklyn
Where he commented on KKK men on trial in South Carolina.
They are to be convicted. Some would be imprisoned. Some sent to the penitentiary. And some would be hung.
and he meant it.
This new radicalized Ackerman hadn't just pushed the buttons of former Confederates. President Grant was looking towards the next election. The political tides were changing. Grant began pulling back on using the federal government to go after the KKK. The governor of Georgia requested federal help.
It's the big railroad. And Grant loved businessmen. He loved big railroad people and rich people. So the feeling was
That's your
on
downfall.
Ackerman's part that
Department of Justice. Department of Justice.
Despite Ackerman's resignation, the federal government won many of its conspiracy cases in the South Carolina Klan trials of 1871 and conspiracy cases in the South Carolina Klan trials of 1871 and 1872. In the end, guilty pleas. But after Ackerman resigned, and after these first few trials, the political will to prosecute the more than 1,000 open Klan cases fizzled out. The white lawmakers in Congress soon no longer had an influence in
Grant would eventually issue a blanket pardon for all those convicted and for those cases not yet tried.
For all of the
He
people
just ran
who
out
are
of good white
arrested,
people.
hardly anyone does time.
Kedida Williams is a professor of African American history at Wayne State University.
And a lot of that is because of the local communities and ongoing resistance to Black people being free, equal, and secure, and resistance to the federal government presuming that it should be doing anything in order to stop white Southerners from attacking Black Southerners.
On the surface, Ackerman's zealous pursuit of the KKK was a win for the federal government in the middle of Reconstruction. After the trials ended in 1872, the organization more or less disappeared.
So they did it as long as it was a political win and then quit.
Pretty much folded its tents all across the South. The Ku Klux Klan just disappeared.
No, it's the invisible empire.
White terrorism did not.
They just
And in the end,
saying
Ackerman
it until
and the
Trump came
Justice
around and gave him a red
Department
hat.
never took down the big KKK leaders like they'd wanted. Most of them either fled counties during the raids or just didn't face major consequences.
It's like they
A lot
still
of people,
never
they
face
never
major
surrender themselves to the government. They just leave and go to another community. A lot of people are pardoned, right, for their activities. And so
Like
that's
Trump
why hardly
pardoned all the
anyone does
J6ers.
any time. And they just go back into the communities doing some of the exact same things they had done.
Grant's presidency came to an end, and Reconstruction with him. The 1876 election was highly contested. In order to settle the disputes, the federal government promised to pull the military presence from the South. Once the military was no longer enforcing Reconstruction, Southern Democrats started passing Jim Crow laws. These laws upheld racial segregation and the disenfranchisement of Black voters. They made it easier for white violence against Black people to continue.
Check out the Jerry Garcia band,
So you don't have as
Reconstruction
many
too.
Klan raids after all of the arrests, but you still have lynchings, you still have massacres, you still have a lot of targeted violence around elections through the end of the 19th century. And that's how they're able to get Jim Crow installed, through violence and by seizing political power.
By the 1880s,
All the Black senators and Black congressmen from the South were all gone.
and the North, which still today gets a lot of credit for abolishing slavery, doesn't re-up its push to use the federal government to change things. It doesn't go full Amos Ackerman on these laws in the South.
These are not the abolitionists they've styled themselves as. Northerners and Westerners create this abolitionist cause, this mythology that they're all abolitionists. And the reality is that they were not. They only accept emancipation as a way to end the war quickly. And they can get away with that because white Northerners and white Westerners are willing to turn deaf ear and blind eye to the violence in order to move on with the American experiment.
Yeah, you can stop saying that. So check out the band Reconstruction.
What
Stop
happens
saying
over
deaf ear and
time
blind
is
eye. Check out the band
the
Reconstruction,
memories of
Jerry
the
Garcia,
war
Ron Carter on
and what it
bass.
was about, they begin to fade.
Bernard Powers is the director of the Center for the Study of Slavery in Charleston at the College of Charleston in South Carolina.
How would you then characterize the outcome of these trials? I asked this question, would you consider it a success or a failure? If the measure is protecting the Black population and ending the terror and what's effectively a local civil war happening, how successful or not were these trials in helping to change that?
Based on those criteria, stopping the terrorism and protecting the rights of Black Carolinians to vote and hold office, I would have to judge the KKK investigations and trials a failure.
Just like
What they showed, I think unequivocally, that the federal government was not really willing to marshal the full power, authority, and machinery to eradicate white terrorism in the South.
we need to be ready to
They
do
were
it this time.
unprepared beforehand.
We
They
need to be ready
didn't
to
take
do it
the
against the
opportunity
MAGA Trump
to
Mutineer
correct the
Klansmen.
situation. And what it also probably
Get the
does
justice system ready.
is to further embolden the forces of terror
Yeah,
and
that's what they did when they
organizations
pardoned all the
like the
J6ers.
KKK to control the display of violence in a way that could not be easily tracked and prosecuted
The legacy of the Klan trials is one of political power, but also political will.
You know, they do something really important during Reconstruction, but they don't do enough. What happened during Reconstruction, what happened with the Klan
Check the
violence
Jerry
and the
Garcia
Klan
band
hearings,
Reconstruction
I think
with
it
Ron Carter
really
on bass.
kind of underscores that reality. The federal government could have acted. They chose not to. And they chose not to because the larger white American public did not want them to.
Yeah, but the ones that matter did.
That's it for this week's show. I'm Randa Abdel Fattah.
I'm Ramteen Arablouei, and you've been listening to Throughline from NPR.
Thanks, Throughline. Thanks,
This
Ramteen
episode was
Arablouei.
produced by me,
Thanks,
And me,
Ramteen
and
Arablouei.
Julie Kane, Anya Steinberg, Casey Weiner, Christina Kim,
Devin Katayama,
Irene Noguchi,
Kiana Mokhadam.
Thomas Coltrane.
And we want to give a special shout out to producer Lawrence Wu, who I'm sure you've heard on the credits before. He's been with us since we started Throughline about 7 years ago.
the show would not be what it is today without him. Now, Lawrence is on to new adventures, and we're, of course, very excited for him.
Good luck,
But
Lawrence.
also
Wu.
really sad to see him go.
Sorry,
Thank
Throughline
you,
team.
Lawrence, for building this show with us and helping to make it better. We're really going to miss you.
It's a great show.
Fact-checking for this
can
episode
always
was done by Kevin
Trust
Vogel.
you'll learn some good stuff
This
on
episode was
Throughline.
mixed by
Or
Robert
Reveal.
Rodriguez.
Probably the two
Music
best
for
shows
this
on
episode was
NPR.
composed by Ramteen and his band, Drop
Electric.
Thank you to everyone who contributed expertise, research, and voiceovers. And
Thank you
finally,
for
if
contributing
you have an
comments.
idea or like something you heard on the show,
Especially
please
if
write
you're
us
good.
at throughline@npr.org. And make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or the NPR app. That way, you'll never miss an episode.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, NPR. Thanks, Throughline. Thanks, everybody.
Support for NPR
I'll probably
comes
listen
from
to
the
some of the
station.
news and then shut it
And from
down.
UMA, a cloud-based phone service for any size business with an automated virtual receptionist, video meetings, and other features to connect to customers and coworkers anywhere at uma.com/NPR.
Yeah, Throughline is a
And from
podcast they play on
BritBox, dedicated
NPR,
to offering viewers the
National Public
opportunity
Radio,
to see it differently with
which
British
I'm
TV.
listening to on
Streaming
CPR,
original
Colorado Public
series,
Radio.
Jane Austen dramas, Agatha Christie mysteries, and more at BritBox.com. This is NPR.
This is CPR News, 90.1 FM, KCFR Denver, 1490 AM KCFC Boulder,
I don't know
on
who that is.
HD at 90.1 FM, and on your smart speaker, say play CPR News.
Even the best vehicles have an expiration date. But plus, Alexander Skarsgård on his latest movie, a gay BDSM romance. And we fold soup dumplings in preparation for Lunar New Year.
The soup part is the magic, I would say, because everybody's like, how do you get the soup?
Let's
in
just
the
hear what the
dumpling?
top
That's
news
the
story
magic
is,
of
then we'll shut it down.
Folding is an art.
First,
The magic of folding and art of soup.
live from
making.
NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. It's the second day of a partial shutdown for the Department of Homeland
Shut down
Security
Homeland
after
Security.
Democrats demanded changes for immigration
We need
agents,
to impeach,
including not
remove
wearing masks,
all those
not
guys.
racially profiling people, and requiring them to identify themselves. This in order to extend funding. But Congress left without
Keep
a
it shut
deal
down and
it's
sue
now on a
ICE out of
one-week recess.
$200
This after
billion.
immigration agents shot and killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minnesota last month. White House Border
Shame.
Czar Tom Homan
They did a
rejects
terrorist
the
attack on our
lawmakers'
First and Second
demands.
I'll
Amendments.
let the White House
Fuck you,
and
Tom
the
Holman.
members of Congress fight that out. But
Give me a
I
bag
think
full of
some the acts
$50,000.
Are just, I think they're unreasonable because there is no racial profiling. There is identifying marks. But masks.
Identifying marks. What, are you supposed to know their
Now they're
birthmarks of the ICE
passing
kidnappers?
legislation to make it illegal to dox agents or something like that. But
Dox
the mask
agents.
right
Are
now
you
for
identifying
safety
yourselves or
reasons.
not?
Speaking there on CBS's Face the Nation, Holman says more than 1,000 agents have left Minnesota and more will leave
They need to leave the
soon.
streets and be in jail.
Democratic leaders say
For
the
their
party
kidnapping
is
for
ready to
life.
spend millions of dollars on a ballot measure in Virginia, allowing Democrats to redraw the state's congressional map. NPR's Ashley Lopez reports it's an effort to
We should only
offset
be supporting
President Trump's
Democrats that are
plans
going to
tilt
impeach and
maps in
remove
the
and execute
GOP's
Trump and all the
favor
Trump
for the
Trumpeteers.
midterms.
Like,
Virginia
let's be
Supreme
real.
Court ruled on Friday
We're
that
gonna need all
Democrats
new
could put a
Democrats,
ballot
probably.
measure before voters that would pave the way for the party to draw as many
Yeah, I'm
as
shutting
4
it down.
more seats that would favor them this year. In an interview with CNN, House Minority